Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Dynasty in 30. We are so back this week. I don't know where we were before, but we are back. We've got another episode here, preparing you for perfection, scheming for success, tackling the tough questions, as always. And today, it's a look-ahead episode. We're going to discuss the current makings of the 2026 draft class, helping you determine how should we be structuring our dynasty teams? How do we structure our rosters? And helping to fine-tune those valuations on some of the draft picks that you might be using to help acquire the necessary players to contend this year. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Dynasty in 30.
You're watching Dynasty in 30, only on Fantasy Now Plus.
Hey, I am Will Ryan, the fantasy philosopher, joined by my co-host, Tim Holstad. Tim, how are you doing today?
Doing very well. It is always a pleasure to look at rookie classes way too early. We're week 7 of the season, and we're already thinking about next year. So it's truly dynasty season.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is never not dynasty season. That's how I look at it. I'm with you. I find time throughout the season, and honestly, it's funny because I know it's mostly a waste of time to be going through looking at stuff as is now, because the samples are so small that you see some pretty ridiculous numbers out there already. And then it's going to regress back to the mean by the end of the season. So, occasionally we'll get that one generational prospect that doesn't, but it's fun season. I will say it's been kind of an interesting year. We got a new coach at Penn State. We got a shake up in the quarterback landscape with another injury there. All sorts of stuff happening throughout the season. So I'm sure half the stuff we talk about now is going to be kind of moot by a few weeks from now.
Yeah.
But hey, we're here, so we're going to do it anyways. Before we really get going, because let's be honest, once we get cooking, we aren't stopping. It's Dynasty in 30 or no Dynasty in 30. We're just going.
Yep.
Dynasty in 30 is a Fantasy Now Plus show brought to you courtesy of Fins Talk Sports Network. You can catch us every Saturday on the Fantasy Now Plus YouTube channel or on FTSN Extra. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode from our weekly lineup. We've got streams every day for all of your fantasy football needs. We've got Sunday mornings. It kicks off with Bites and Insights. It brings you last-minute advice before the Sunday main kickoffs. Also brings you some cooking tips for your game day food. So don't miss that part of it because it's important. You got to keep your energy up throughout the day. Monday, we'll get a recap with cold brews and hot takes, taking a look at what happened the day before on Sunday. Tuesday, we'll get our priority waiver show in to help you figure out, what you need to do with those waiver claims and how you're going to fix your rosters. Wednesday is our double dip. We have the Start Sit show, actually, earlier in the day. And then in the evening, it's the Fantasy Rankings Report, helping you guys take a look at what the experts are thinking, who's, pretty consensus, and then who people are disagreeing about that you might want to take a look at. Thursday, look at the DFS slate for the weekend with our show Get Tilted. Friday has the IDP show with Pudge, which brings us back to where we are now, Saturday, with Dynasty in 30. We do have a ton of written content out weekly. You can find it on the website, www.fantasynowplus.com. We have rankings, DFS, redraft, dynasty strategy, and of course, underdog-related content. Speaking of which, new players, play $5 and you can get $100 in bonus funds using the promo code FN+. Make sure to take advantage of that. It's easy, it's quick, and it's a lot of fun. So make sure you don't miss out on that. If you are looking for a quicker response than waiting for some of our daily shows, you can join the Discord. The link is in the description. All of our experts are happy to hop in, answering questions, talking ball, whatever's going on that day. So definitely don't miss out there. There's definitely some good or bad, which makes them good jokes that go on in there. So
lots of those.
Wonder who would be guilty of that.
We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
Oh, it's out there somewhere. So, Tim, let's start this off because, there's a lot of college teams out there, and there's only so much time before our Dynasty in 30 is up. So, what position do you want to start with today?
I want to start with a boring position.
Okay.
That is not at all related to fantasy, but is incredibly related to fantasy. And that's the offensive line. Everything that we're seeing so far indicates that this is going to be a very, very weak offensive line class. There is basically no blue chippers at all. There's a bunch of tackles who project better as guards. There's not very many good guards. There's some good centers, but they're centers. The NFL does not draft them highly, and for whatever reason, they just aren't valued the same way that tackles and guards are. But I think it's interesting to talk about.
Tim, centers are important. I don't know. You maybe not know this, but Iowa has run trick plays for their center to try and catch touchdowns called polecat. And
did it work?
No, it did not. It was close. It was overthrown by about a yard. So
that sounds about right. But honestly, like, one of the big stories for me this year in fantasy has just been like these putrid offensive lines around the league. The depth is weaker than ever. The star talent has gotten injured pretty consistently so far this season. And there's not really that much help coming from everything that we're looking at and seeing right now. So it's not really something that you can take direct action one-to-one on, but it is something to keep in mind that the trends we're seeing, the way that teams are playing this season, will most likely translate to next season as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And especially with not knowing that there really isn't a ton that's going to be out there in the class. Really, you're talking free agency or trades then. So you're going to want to keep an eye on teams that potentially have extra draft picks that might be able to slide some compensation over to a team that does somehow, who knows how, actually has some depth at the offensive line positions. But yeah, that's really all you're going to get from an improvement standpoint, probably over the next year or so. We can always hope that someone's just in a bad scheme, will get a chance somewhere else and, grow into the potential that they were drafted for a couple of years ago. But yeah, it has a huge impact on the players that everybody knows the names of. And we generally, as a fantasy community, don't have a great grasp of who are these guys that are creating all of the opportunities for the rest of the offense. So very, very good point. In terms of the names that people are actually going to have to know, should we just start kind of from the top then? QB, move down?
I think so.
Yeah, do you really have much at QB? I will admit, I'm not super excited about this class, but I will preface this, you guys. I am staunchly in the anti-rookie QB camp. Like, I don't really care who it is. I'm not expecting all that much from rookie QBs. I tend to always have them ranked lower than where everybody else tends to. My take on that is really, you just never know how quarterbacks are going to translate from college to NFL. Yeah. It's a different game. The speed is so much different. The scheme fit, the organization matters so much. And frankly, the teams that are usually drafting quarterbacks high aren't usually the best organizations to help a QB thrive.
Yep.
So I tend to be much more skeptical of quarterbacks than most. I mean, I honestly, I have two guys that I'm at this point a little bit interested in. I want to see what happens with Lenora Sellers. If he comes out, I think he's got the athletic talent to really make a difference in fantasy, depending on the landing spot. And I mean, the second guy is really going to be Fernando Mendoza for me. I was not looking at him coming into the season. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Indiana has been kind of a big surprise, even for me as a Big Ten guy. They're playing great. I got to see Mendoza firsthand when he came in. He beat the Hawkeyes. And I mean, honestly, that's kind of one of my anecdotal data points for quarterbacks. Is like, how do they do against Iowa? For those who don't pay much attention, Iowa year in and year out has one of the best defenses in the country. And that is despite we really don't recruit all that well. So we bring in a lot of kind of the blue-collared, mid-tier recruits, keep them in the program as much as possible. And like it's kind of that next man up mentality. So as our seniors graduate, the next person steps in. It's been actually pretty well correlated. If QBs can hang in against Iowa and put up decent numbers, they tend to do okay in the NFL. But guys that struggle against Iowa, and our defensive coordinator's name is Phil Parker, his scheme really tends to give quarterbacks fits, but it can really test their patience. They tend not to give up big plays all that much. So if a quarterback comes in and is making big plays on Iowa, which Mendoza made a few, it was kind of quiet in the middle of the game, but at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game, he really shined. So I'm kind of intrigued by Mendoza to see how he does the rest of the season, hoping he can stay healthy, and then to kind of watch the draft chatter to see, where does he end up going? Is it looking like he's, that the top echelon of the first round, or, is this just a class that has more guys that people are willing to take shots on because QB is so important? That's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I don't see a huge difference maker that I'm expecting to come in and just take a starting job and be able to just get plugged into lineups. Do you see anything different? Is there anybody else that you're monitoring here?
It's a bad class, man. I mean, the way I would describe it is if a bunch of Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, and Kenny Pickett's were all coming out in the same class. There's like 5 to 8 quarterbacks who could conceivably either be first-round picks or fourth-round picks, somewhere on that spectrum. And no one's really separating. Mendoza's separating the most. I think he's right now the Vegas favorite to be the number 1 pick as a quarterback, but would you even put him on Cam Ward's level from last year? I don't know if I would.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, so I'm not a film guy. So I kind of need to wait to reserve full judgment until I've got at least most of a season of stats to kind of look through. I want to get a better sense of like how his accuracy is at different ranges. That's another thing I like to look at is like, at the NFL level, like every quarterback's going to be able to hit the short stuff. At least to some extent. I mean, sorry, Anthony Richardson. Although maybe his vision will be better after the eye injury. We'll see. I'm sorry. That's a bad joke, you guys. I should not joke about people getting injured. That sounds like it was very, very painful. So hopefully he is able to fully recover. I hate to see anybody get injured, especially someone who has had such a tough offseason. Like, as much as he's had some memeable moments, like he is a human being. So
yeah.
Poor guy. Like, I hope it heals.
Yeah, man. As far as quarterbacks, Sellers is definitely interesting. I liken him to Jalen Hurts without any of the good passing stuff,
Okay.
which is basically just smaller Anthony Richardson. I don't even know if he comes out. He's having an abysmal year so far. He legitimately might just transfer to a better school for his senior season.
Which might be the best thing for him. I mean,
I would probably recommend it. Like if he was tearing it up this year, that would be one thing. He would probably be almost a lock for number one because of the physical traits, but he just has not looked good. If you're wondering where Arch Manning is, awful. Just looks like a freshman who's never snapped a football before. Like, I don't know what's in the water in Texas, but this is another high profile quarterback that's just like absolutely not delivering the hype at all. So hopefully he can
I don't know, man. I hate to like turn boomer, but like I'm old enough to remember when Arch Manning was good.
That's dating yourself quite a bit.
It wasn't that long ago. I mean,
yeah, I mean
the partial games last season.
But yeah, there's some interesting names. Dante Moore for Oregon is kind of rising up draft boards pretty quickly. I believe he's a true junior. He was a 5-star prospect out of high school, sat behind Dylan Gabriel for 2 years. He may also not declare, but if he gets more hype and if the NFL starts to give him signs that he would be like a top 10 pick, then he probably would declare because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, that's the tough thing, I think, for these players is like, it's so tempting. Although now that we do have NIL, I'm really curious to see whether we do start to see that trend of players staying in school longer just because they can make some of that money.
Yep.
Take the opportunity to really work with the coaches that do care about developing you because they know that their job depends on developing you. They're not tied to contracts per se at the college level. So they do essentially have free agency with the transfer portal, but you at least get focus on development, even if you're not the starter in college. So,
yeah. And, you get so much money to be the star quarterback in college now. And as long as you're good in college, you're going to be a multimillionaire if you go to basically any top half school in the country. So it could be a lot of guys that just ride it out through senior year.
So it sounds like, okay, we don't have much in terms of quarterback coming out. What are we doing with our rosters then? Like, typically, if there's a bunch of good rookie quarterbacks and your team is just an absolute teardown, I would say absolutely, like, just get rid of all your quarterbacks. You can draft some of the rookies then and, like, see who pans out, see who doesn't. I don't think that's a viable option this year. I think I don't know what you...
they might all be cheap is the thing. Because I don't think there's going to be 6 in the first round, but the NFL is so desperate for quarterbacks that can actually play the position that we might get some reaches. We might get some high second round picks guys. Like, this is the type of class where it's kind of the Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis class where it's like, it feels gross the whole way. And then it becomes pretty clear, like 2 days before the draft, how this is going to shake out. And I think, we're not even halfway through the college season yet, but it's starting to shake up that way where these guys are just going to be random based on like what a team's evaluation is. So you could have a ton of value. You could have no value. So yeah, if you need quarterback, good luck. You're going to probably still need it in 2027.
Yeah, I think, yeah. At this point, I'd probably go around and start targeting, honestly, someone like Justin Fields, who, he's got a contract through next year.
CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I think go look for some of these guys who are just not doing that well this year. So they're not going to completely kill you on points, like your best ball points in terms of draft order.
Yeah.
But like the situation shouldn't get much worse. I mean, Fields is about to play several weeks without a wide receiver. Any wide receiver. They're the ones they have don't count.
Yeah.
I mean, Stroud's offensive line. I mean, I think they're playing Red Rover, not football,
and they're not going to get better either.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think at that point, what you're hoping for is to find a trade, kind of let some of the younger guys develop on that team and figure out how to go about that. Like, I'm trying to think about like Matthew Stafford. The problem is he's producing too much for a rebuilder.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I'm fighting for a playoff spot, or if I am going to make the playoffs, I don't mind going and getting Matthew Stafford and seeing maybe he comes back next year. I mean, there's no saying that he's for sure done. I mean, same kind of thing with Aaron Rodgers. I think Rodgers is more likely to be done than Stafford. Rodgers hasn't been playing at the same high level. But I mean, Stafford's been legitimately really good the last few years.
Yep.
And I mean, I think he's one of those guys that, like, as long as it's still going, he's not going to hang it up. Like, we've seen him compete through injury. He's just got that warrior mentality. So I'd probably kind of take some shots like that on guys that people are writing off after this year and not having any future value.
Yeah.
See, I mean, you might eke out an extra season or two, which, like, if he comes back next year, I mean, is his value going to be any less than it is this year?
No.
So I mean, you're basically getting a free rental for the rest of the year.
Yep.
Just with the risk that he could end up a zero after the year. Yep. So, but he's either a zero or he was a free rental. So, depending on the price, I'm happy to go explore that.
Yep.
All right. Should we just go down kind of the roster position? So we had QB. Usually running back is listed next. What's running back looking like for you?
Again, it's kind of hard to tell this early in the season. Just most of the teams have played all their cupcakes so far, so some running back production is a little inflated, but it's definitely not last year's class. I probably would put it more. There's a couple blue chippers at the top. Jeremiah Love still looks good, still is producing. And then Jonah Coleman from Washington is looking really good from an analytical perspective.
Yep.
Some of the analytics that I ascribe to and the people that I watch who covered prospects way more in depth than I ever will say that Coleman is like a top 10 to 12-ish like data running back in the last 10 years from a prospect model perspective. So he's not Bijan, he's not Genty, but he's very much on the level of like a Hampton, or they comp him to like Ezekiel Elliott almost.
Okay. Yeah. That, I mean, I'm thinking through the models that I've run over the past couple of years, and I was trying to think through, okay, where would that put him? Cause I've always been, I try and back test a little bit just to make sure I'm tweaked correctly as trends change and everything.
Yep.
And I mean that sounds right to me. I mean,
yeah,
I'll be really curious to get the full season stats in there, but yeah, he's definitely on my list as well. So
yep. After that, it's kind of gross. It's kind of a lot of question marks. Or you've got Nick Singleton for Penn State. They have their two-headed monster that wasn't really a monster this year and now has to deal with a new head coach, and it's a bad team. So
yeah,
the Penn State running backs kind of feel like it's going to be a Ollie Gordon, Quinshaw Judkins kind of situation of just like they were good, and then their last year they were not so good, which is real. We think Singleton's good. He was pretty highly rated if he had come out in last year's class. I think he was like kind of consensus RB6 or 7 in that class. So,
which again, good class. So
yeah.
RB6 or 7 is
he's the RB3 in this class. So to put that into perspective, but I have no idea on like what draft capital would look like for anyone besides Coleman and Love at this point. They could all be third rounders. They could be sixth rounders. It's a very wide net right now.
Yeah, I actually really like the way that I model. So I do a pre-draft composite score, and then once we get the draft capital, I plug that in and get kind of the finalized score. But it's really interesting to me to see those guys that like grade out really highly in the analytics that I take into account in my model. And then sometimes they do fall further in the draft than I would expect, which, it makes me wonder. But then those are also the guys that I like to keep in mind for, like, I mean, I had Taj Brooks on that list. And then, he hasn't done anything this year, but I'm really waiting to see what the Bengals do, because somehow they managed to have a good game on the ground on Thursday. But, I mean, other than that, they have been just abysmal. So I'm kind of thinking we're probably going to see Taj Brooks second half of the season. And I'm really curious to see what happens there, because, I mean, I had him mocked up as, like, legitimately could earn, like, round 3 capital.
Yeah.
So disappointing to see him not do it, but, like, those are the guys that you want to watch for and see where they land on the depth chart. If in training camp and stuff they start creeping up at all, like, I will go out and spend future capital when you can still get them for a third or a fourth. So I like to keep an eye on the guys that kind of pop in my models that, then fall back from the draft capital, because to be fair, draft capital is 100% the most important factor for any model that I've ever put together. The NFL is relatively good at scouting talent,
especially at running back.
But there's always variance. So, you're going to have guys that just get into a system that just suits them that they haven't been in before. So if they've shown that they have ability, like, I love to keep those guys, like, in a little notebook off to the side, and keeping an eye there. So I'm with you on Jeremiah Love. I want to ask you, you brought up Jeremiah Love, you brought up Nick Singleton. I would say both of those guys, the workload is not what I would expect for running backs that kind of grade out the way that they do. What's your take on that? Is this another, like, Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins thing where it's just the team has two really good running backs that they just, like, they are really good running backs, but they're not that much separated where one's going to get enough to really put together a monster season the way that we've kind of seen with other elite backs? Or is it just that they're just not as good as everyone is saying they are?
I think it's more so the former. You've got a 50-50 split right now on the Ohio State example because the Patriots refuse to play Trevion Henderson, but Judkins looks fantastic. He's probably a top 5 dynasty running back at this point, just based off of how he looks. And, I think college is in a weird position where you're going to have teams that are just loaded with talent, and then all the rest of the teams that don't have the money to throw at these, like, absolute top players. It happened with Ohio State in their running back room. I mean, it's happened with their wide receiver room as well. Like, they just keep having 4 to 6, like, really great wide receivers in that building at any one time, but you can only play 2 to 3. They're immediately playing 3 or 4 draftable more wide receivers this year. And I think that at running back, it's hard because at most you have 2 on the field, but you usually only have the 1. So when coaches have these talented running back rooms, they feel like they have to play both of them. It's kind of the Arthur Smith ideology of just, I know that I have Bijan, but Tyler Algier is also good enough to deserve touches. And we as a fantasy community say, why? Bijan is so clearly better, but he's obvious, like, Algier is still good enough to be given that workload. And I think it's kind of the same thing for college in these situations, because, like, there were situations in college like Bijan at Texas where no one else was touching that football for most of the time, and he was just dominating the competition, and he was getting all the touches. And people like Roshan were dynasty darlings because we were like, oh, he got like 4 touches in college. Like maybe he's good. He's not. So yeah,
I mean, I do think there's something to be said there, though. Is like those situations do go one way or the other. Like either they're just buried behind someone who is an elite talent, and there are some gems to be found in those situations where they didn't get the opportunity because the coaches knew what they had ahead of them.
Yep.
But then you do have some situations where it's like the narrative fits, but it just never pans out. So
yeah. And it's not like they're splitting because they're both bad. They're both just too good to not be on the field in these situations, I think.
Yeah, I do want to throw out one more name before we move on from running back. Minnesota, Darius Taylor. I think, it's tough when you're not on a good team, especially at running back, where you can sometimes get games scripted out. The thing that's really promising to me, we've seen Darius Taylor be a very hard-nosed runner who can be really, really effective.
Yeah.
He's not being as effective this year, but we are seeing a ton of pass catching out of him. Mm-hmm. It was something that I wasn't 100% sure on. Like we'd seen some of it in the past, but he's a huge part of their passing game this year. I honestly, for me, like his stock is going way up, even without the efficiency this year, just because he's showing that he can be a factor in the passing game. And I mean, that's really one of the things is when I'm looking at running back prospects, I want to find a guy who ideally he has to be able to catch some passes.
Yeah.
If you cannot catch passes in the NFL, you have to be a Derrick Henry type. That's just too good of a power runner to take off the field. I mean, even Derrick Henry we're seeing now kind of at the tail end of his career, he's game script dependent.
Yep.
I mean, if they get behind, it's Justice Hill in the game, even though Derrick Henry is still one of the best running backs in the NFL. Darius Taylor's checking that box for me, but we've also seen him put up massive workloads. I mean, we've seen him get 30 carry games. He doesn't have a problem carrying the load. That's it's another underrated aspect in my model. I think that seems to be one of the things that really pushes some guys up for me compared to some of the other kind of models when I'm looking at the outputs and seeing where guys rank. It's like, that's kind of the factor that seems to jump out to me is if guys are able to get a ton of touches per game throughout a season, I think that's really important because it shows that they have kind of the upside to potentially be a 3-down back. Like even if they come into the league to be in a committee, if the starter goes down, I like the backs that we know can hold up to a full-time workload if necessary. Like if you get the guys that the change of pace backs, the scat backs that are too small, coaches just aren't going to trust them with the load. Like what's the upside there? Yeah. If they're splitting with someone and their counterpart gets hurt, like, okay, they'll just bring up someone else to split with them. It's no different. So I want the guys that have that contingent upside of, yeah, they might not be good enough to just dominate a backfield. So they're going to be in timeshare. They'll do all right. But yeah, I mean, think Tyler Algier.
Yep.
John goes down. We know what's happening.
Yeah.
It's Tyler Algier gets every carry. So I think Darius Taylor's going to be one of those guys that ends up in a situation like that, where he's going to be paired with someone. I don't think he's likely to get drafted to be the guy somewhere.
Yeah.
Although that would be nice for fantasy if he did. I think that's kind of the dream for every prospect is, find a spot where there's just no one else. But it's just not realistic in today's NFL. So I want the guys who I think can kind of have that upside, I guess, the contingent upside, like I was saying.
Yep. And a quick note on Taylor. I mean, he was kind of a consensus top 3 running back going into this college season, and he's just The offensive line there is just absolutely awful, and he is getting battered. So
I will say, like, he's one of those guys that, so I don't pay much attention to college football during the season just because, I mean, there's so much going on with the NFL to try and stay abreast of from week to week. But like, I don't hear anybody talking about Darius Taylor. And like, I feel like in past years, like we had Ollie Gordon, who was coming in as like, had that huge season and then disappointed, but like, it felt like people were still talking about him, even though he was going through a disappointing season. I don't know if that's just Minnesota being so irrelevant to the media that Darius Taylor just gets ignored, but it feels like he's very under the radar for what he is.
Yeah, and I would comp him to Ollie Gordon pretty one for one, to be honest. Like, that offense for Gordon just fell apart. The team fell apart. They were awful, and he couldn't produce. And I think Taylor's so far in a pretty similar situation. I believe there was a game this year that he had 8 carries for 11 yards for the whole game. Like, it's not going well for him, but I think he's talented in spite of that. So those are the types of players that it's very interesting to see how they test, where they're drafted, how the situation looks, for sure.
Yep. Adding the extra data points is huge and kind of putting that puzzle together.
Yep.
Obviously we're going quite a bit long today. But let's move on to wide receiver then. I will say, I don't know, like, maybe it's just me, but I don't love this wide receiver class. I mean, I've got a handful of guys that I'm like pretty interested in like first or second round of dynasty drafts, expecting for next year's drafts. But like beyond that, like I haven't seen anyone pop that I'm like, I really want to give this guy a chance, even though he might not be getting the attention. Like I haven't found anyone like that. So I mean, I've got guys like Mekhi Lemon, Chris Brazzell, Elijah Surratt, Carnell Tate, Jeremy Bernard. But like, those are pretty name brand. If you don't know who any of those names are, like, don't worry about it. You will in the next couple of weeks and months. They're kind of the default top guys, I think, for most of the pundits. Like, I don't see any real dark horses this year. Do you have anybody? Like, do you have any strong takes on the positioning of those 5? Because I'm pretty much like, I think they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Like, I don't even have who is it at Clemson? Antonio Williams? Is that right? I'm totally forgetting. Like the slot guy that got hurt. So he like, his stats are low because he missed the first couple games, but I think he's gonna be pretty good. He just has to keep going, and Clemson hasn't been all that good this year. So,
well, I kind of see it differently than you.
Okay.
I think Mekhi Lemon is an elite prospect. He has almost the exact career trajectory of Malik Neighbors so far, and they win and play in very similar ways. If I remember correctly, he leads the country in yards per route run right now. And
that's certainly a pet metric of mine. So keep going. And you're piquing my interest here.
I mean, he's basically carrying that USC offense on his back. Their quarterback is starting to get a bit of buzz, but there's probably going to be questions all season. Is it him or is it Lemon?
Yep.
Lemon was not the consensus wide receiver 1 coming into this season, but he seems to have just taken that role because of how well he's playing. And I see it on film in the short amount of time that I've watched. He's fluid, he separates, he is fast, he catches everything that you want him to catch. He's good at high pointing the ball despite being smaller. He really does remind me of Malik Neighbors.
Okay.
And Jordan Tyson at ASU, he's just continuing to produce. He was the consensus wide receiver one going into this year. He hasn't regressed as so far as he's just not putting up as great of numbers, but they're also missing Sam Levitt for multiple games, so that kind of tracks, to be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was kind of the thing. It's like I at this point I don't have Tyson on, and I think to some of that is like the small sample size of what I've seen so far this year. Like his metrics just aren't popping. So yeah, man, they're certainly, maybe I am just wrong on this class. To be fair, you have the unfair advantage of living further west than I do, so you get to actually see some of these people, whereas I'm asleep before they kick off. So
Yep. Tyson is in my backyard basically. So
nice.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of like late first, early second dynasty wide receivers in this class, and I think they will kind of separate themselves depending on, again, draft capital, scheme, how they test. I actually really like Chris Brazzell. I know it's Tennessee, and I know that's scary because everything they do is a scam. But if you watch him play, he is not participating in that scam. They love their trip sets. The reason that everyone missed on Jalen Hyatt was because he was at the back of the trip and he just got easy go routes 4 or 6 times a game, and he would catch 2 to 3 of them. Brazzell's playing the X at all times. He is always on the line of scrimmage. He is always facing press coverage, and he's winning. And also, he's basically just a clone of Dante Thornton physically. He is 6'5". He is over 200 pounds. He probably runs a sub 4.4 40. So he's very interesting. I know it's Tennessee, but if he tests even better than he looks in game, he's probably going to be a mid to late first round like NFL pick.
Tim, just remember as you describe these guys that this is supposed to be a family show.
I know.
You cannot do this to me, man. This is
I'm just saying.
And it sounds good, but like you said, Tennessee, like I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. I mean, even like Dylan Sampson was supposed to be like that awesome prospect. And like he's looked pretty good, but then Quinshon Judkins comes in and shows what you can do behind that Cleveland line. Like
I think, the difference between him and Thornton, no matter what else you look at, is that Thornton didn't produce almost at all. He had barely any counting stats. He really didn't pop. Like there was a reason that he was like a late sleeper of like, oh, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Brazzell
he was really the workout king there, where I mean when people saw the measurables he put up, it was like, oh, okay.
Yep. Brazzell's going to put up those measurables, and he has production, and it's not gimmicky production. It's just straight up, I'm beating press coverage of the line production. So he's not like the most polished prospect in the world. He still has things to work on, but
sure,
maybe like 80% of Brian Thomas Jr. is what I would liken him to. Like, I don't think he could be that level of a player, but
family show.
Hold your ears.
Like you're getting this like TVMA rating. Like, can we talk? Just be like, yeah, he's really fast. I don't need to get all of these imageries in my head.
Big fast Gober. But yeah.
Oh, okay. So you really like this wide receiver class. Is this something where you'd be willing to stock up then on kind of late firsts, looking to kind of build a wide receiver room with some of these picks, taking a bunch of shots there to see who pans out?
I think so. I think it honestly does remind me of the Neighbors, Harrison, Odunze class. It just doesn't have Neighbors, Harrison, and Odunze at the top, but it has a lot of guys that could become Ladd McConkey, could become BTJ, but it also could have people that turn into Keon Coleman and Xavier Legette. So You had about a 50-50 hit rate at the back of the first, early second in that class. I think it's probably going to be something similar here, where you have 3 or 4 guys that are going to give you varying levels of production, and you have 1 or 2 guys that are just going to end up being busts for you. But
Sure.
I think there's a lot of depth as far as guys that will make an impact for fantasy. I don't know if there's really that many guys that can become like the guy that can become like a top 12 dynasty wide receiver. I think Lemon is pretty close.
Okay.
I think if he goes to the correct team or a good system with a good quarterback, I think he'll be great.
So
But
not the Jets.
they're picking 1 overall, so I sure hope they don't take an undersized wide receiver at 1 overall. But
And sorry to any Jets fans, but I'm sorry. The talent that they have drafted and failed to capitalize on is just, it's insane. I mean,
how is
that
there
one year they drafted Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, who, I mean, I think if Breece Hall had stayed healthy, he would have been rookie of the year.
Yep.
Instead, it goes to Garrett Wilson, and like they're still where they are. Like,
because they drafted Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
And Sam Darnold is now a good quarterback because he left the Jets.
That's part of it too. A lot of this time, it's the organization. It's not necessarily the players. So
yeah,
you do have to keep this in mind when it does come to draft time. But, all right. Should we see if we can take this home with tight end? You want to?
It's going to be
do a quick overview here, and
yeah. You like the class more than me. I don't think there's very much talent in it at all. I don't even know if there's a second round NFL pick in this class, let alone a first round NFL pick. There's a handful of guys that are interesting. Kenyon Sadiq, Max Clare, Eli Stowers. They're just kind of guys. I would say like probably like a half tier below Michael Mayer as a prospect, if you remember his prospect profile. And, he was neck and neck with
fair
McBride.
to remind people, like, I mean, he was a good prospect. Like,
Yeah,
this isn't,
he went before Trey McBride
Yeah.
in the draft, which is still funny because the Raiders could have had McBride and Bowers on the same team.
I mean, I still don't think there's anything wrong with Mayer. If I'm being honest, like I think he's a really good player.
He is good, but I think McBride's obviously better. But, Harold Fannin would have been tight end 1 by leaps and bounds if he was in this class. Terrence Ferguson.
Are you saying he wasn't tight end 1 by leaps and bounds?
He's looking as close as we're ever going to get, to be honest. I still would give the edge to Tyler Warren, but it is actually a debate. So
yeah, you're allowed to be wrong. That's okay.
But yeah, I don't see top end talent, and that doesn't mean that there's no hope for them. More so than ever, the NFL is embracing the tight end. It's embracing young tight ends that can produce right away. So there is opportunity there. I'm sure half the teams in the league would love to add some of these guys, but how relevant or useful they'll be for fantasy is a different question.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I will agree with you. I don't think the top end of the class is there for sure. I'm not going to argue and say that it is. I don't think there's anyone that's really jumping out analytically. But I honestly think I've got like 4 or 5 guys who are all seemingly in the, like, for me, I actually had Aronde Gadsden as my tight end 4 in this class. He was like, he certainly was not like, yes, he's going to hit prospect for me, but it was like the top 3 that were very clear. I guess if you want to include Loveland and Warren up with Fannin, which we're going to keep this train rolling, guys. Like the Fannin is, I'm celebrating that every week I can, every time we talk tight ends. But I don't think we're going to have anyone at that level. But I do. Stowers, Terrence Carter Jr., Michael Trigg, I believe at Baylor, if I'm remembering right. I am totally blanking on where Jaron Kanik is at school. But then Tanner Koziol is at, oh my God, why can I not remember schools all of a sudden?
Because
is he Cincinnati?
Get them. That sounds right.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys are actually putting up really good metrics. And so they are kind of jumping out to me in that tier of like, no, I don't expect them to get the first and second round draft capital, which really it makes it a lot easier to click their name on draft day for sure. For any of you who have seen my work on rookie tight end prospect profiling, it's a huge correlation. Like you basically can filter down to first and second round tight ends if you want to have a really, really strong hit rate.
Yep.
But I think these are the types of players out here where they're not going to go in the top 2, but they're going to be the guys that actually do end up producing by year 3. Yeah. It's not so much, I don't think they're going to come in and produce right away. But if you've got an older tight end room, I think this is a class where you can go get a couple young guys, not spend very much at all. I think you'll be able to restock your tight end room, and in 2 to 3 years, you'll be able to have 2 top 12 tight ends just out of these handful of guys that come out this year. So I do think we have that depth there. I just don't think we've got like the, anywhere near the generational talent of a Brock Bowers or the high end, like almost surefire eventual tight end ones that we had this previous year. So it's going to take some patience, but these are the guys that I would be kind of trying to gather some like round 4 picks for. Yeah. And I'm going to grab a lot of them for very, very cheap. I don't think many of them are going to get talked about. I think the big trap this year with this class of tight ends, you mentioned Kenyon Sadiq. I think the guys that are up at the top of the kind of scouting tight end, like the guys who do film analysis, I think they are getting too wrapped up in the physical potential of some of these guys. And my whole thought process is, yes, you want really big, strong, fast guys to play tight end so that if they put a linebacker on them, they can outrun them. Yeah. If they put a corner on them, they can just be bigger and win contested catches. I think what people have tended to forget, they get so wrapped up in these athletic profiles. What are these athletic specimens doing against college kids? Because like the really athletic guys this year are not producing. It's like if you can't produce catches, like what are you going to do when you get up against NFL players? Yeah. And the schemes get more difficult. And like, I really struggle with that. I think there's too much. I mean, I've been a sucker before grabbing like really late round tight ends off of the waiver wire. Was it Zach Kuntz? I think that had the 10 relative athletic score. Just like an absolute physical specimen, a monster. I don't know that he has even 5 catches in his career after 3 years.
Of 10 yards total.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where it's like, yeah, I'm confident he could run past any linebacker that tries to guard him. And I'm confident he can outjump any cornerback that covers him outside. But he apparently can't catch once he's open. So,
I mean, just look at the tight ends that are successful in today's day and age. Like, even past like the obvious, these guys are just the best of the best. I mean, there's 36-year-old Zach Ertz is still like a top 12 tight end year in and year out. Like Dallas Goedert is just consistently a back end tight end 1 year in and year out. And like none of these guys are faster than you. They're all bigger than your average linebacker now because every linebacker
let's be fair. They're faster than me.
Oh yeah. But I mean, even Harold Fannin is a little undersized for a tight end. He's not like a 10 RAS guy, but he's just winning because he just gets open. And I feel like that's something that you can obviously watch film to some extent and see it, but like you can't really find it analytically of like who can just find the soft spot in the zone and sit and catch. And if they can create after the catch, that's when you get your Brock Bowers, your Trey McBrides, your Tyler Warrens. Like that's how you find great tight ends. Who's the last athletic freak to like actually produce? Like Kyle Pitts had that one season, that one time, because
Kittle's old, but
I don't even remember. Was he like that big of a like Vernon?
Yeah, he was. His broad jump was like I want to say it was like 10.6 or something. Like just he was one of those that came in. He tested really well. He was just like extremely underutilized at Iowa as always. Just the way that they run their offense
tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, like TJ Hawkinson, like just a dude that finds the zone.
Yep.
And Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends of all time, and he just finds the zone. Like everyone is like, oh my gosh, I need to find the next Gronk. You're not finding the next Gronk. He doesn't exist.
Those players are obvious. Is like when they're that big and they're producing and they're creating after they have the ball in their hands. Like everyone can see those guys. That's not under the radar at all. It's
like Antonio Gates was a freak who just happened to play basketball. Like that's why he wasn't highly drafted. Yeah. But if he had played college, he would have been highly drafted and would have produced the same way. Like
that reminds me, I need to start scouting all of the college basketball teams as they start their seasons, figure out who the next Antonio Gates is going to be.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what everyone was into Elijah Arroyo for. It was like, he played basketball. He's the next one. It's like, what did he do on the football field? Did he win by getting open, or did he win because he's 6'6", 240 pounds?
He won the dunk contest.
Yep. So my thing with tight ends is I never draft them in the first round or the second round. Just never. Because they are also the cheapest asset to trade for in Dynasty. I guarantee you could go out right now and get Colston Loveland for a second. Just straight up. In probably 50 to 75% of your leagues.
I am literally going to send that offer in every single league. I'm curious to see if I get any bites.
Like, who's going to ask for a first for him? Under what justification? That they drafted him in the first?
That he's really good?
We think. I think he is that good, but we have no data in the NFL that, one, he's ever going to beat out Cole Kmet, which is a different problem, but he's going to...
I could talk for another hour about how frustrating that is, and I completely understand why, and it infuriates me.
Yeah, the Bears, man. Burden drafting Loveland and Burden to sit on the bench for you. But hey, let's roll out.
I think that's going to get better. I think we're going to start seeing it this week, but
I sure hope so. But like, do you think in your average dynasty league that Harold Fannin would go for a first?
We're talking tight end premium is kind of the standard now, or just PPR?
I would say PPR. Like tight end premium is more of like sickos.
Okay, so tight end premium, I would say absolutely.
He should probably.
If it's not tight end premium, I think that's like the high end of the range at this point. Which, to be fair, I would generally pay that if I'm being honest. Like everything is looking great for him. Like the only thing I would like to see him get a better, I guess, metric of is like his average depth of target has been so low recently with Dylan Gabriel coming in. But to some extent, I think that's just who the Browns are this year. They have a rookie QB, like that's just, they want to make sure that they can get the ball out without taking too many sacks.
Yep.
So they're not going to do a lot of long developing stuff down the field.
Yeah. So my advice for the 2026 tight end class is to go get Colston Loveland and Harold Fannin, because they are very talented prospects. One of them is producing and people thought he wouldn't, and the other is not producing and everyone thought he would. but they're going to be better for your team than anyone that you're going to find in this class, most likely, unless someone like truly is just a unicorn that's in hiding right now. And
Yeah.
I would rather do that and pay high second, late first for these guys, as opposed to I'm going to take whoever the tight end one is at the 204 and pray, because there's probably going to be other position players that are just way more valuable and are going to ascend way higher than whoever the tight end one is ends up being in this class. And that's usually why I fade tight ends as rookies, because, you know, would you have predicted Sam Laporta was going to be the tight end one out of that class? I wasn't. And
This doesn't have the logo, but this is an Iowa shirt.
But, you know, general consensus, no one was taking him as like, yeah, he's going to be a top 12 tight end in his first season. And he was. And you probably could have drafted him with like the 212, maybe in the third sometimes in most leagues.
Yeah, I think
so
that's the approach. Right, that's fair.
Yeah. I prefer the approach of I'm going to take a lot of very late shots on tight end, and I'm going to get the guy. And I don't really want anyone else in the middle.
Yeah, this is the class for that. If I'm like, honestly, like I think you're going to have guys that you can get in the third and fourth that if you're willing to be patient, which you should be with rookie tight ends, I think you can do that. So let's wrap up with, I have kind of an idea for a little exercise here. We've chatted back and forth a little bit about how we view each of the positions.
Yep.
What advice would you give for based on how I see this class, how would you summarize what I should be doing with picks for either A, a contender, or B, what was it? People hate calling it rebuilders now. They like to call it retoolers or whatever, restockers.
You can't retool if you've never won, folks.
Yeah, fair. But go through those two scenarios and like, what would you be doing with picks based on like, if you're looking like you've got early picks and you're not competing, like, should we be hoarding those picks? Should we be trading those picks? What, based on my view of the class, like what's your recommendation here?
That's tough. The one thing that I'll say right off the bat, if you have a horde of picks in this class, I would be going hard after Malik Nabers and Joe Burrow. I don't care where in the process your team is. I would rather have them than any combination of players in this class, just from what we know right now. If another semi-young, high-end talent gets injured, please don't. But if it happens, I would go after
you
them.
Put that out in the universe, Tim.
I didn't mention anyone specifically. The universe can interpret high-end whatever they would like to interpret it to. But, you know, as much as we like these guys, I don't see anyone that's just, you know, he's going to be worth 3 firsts in the middle of next year. Like, if you tried to trade for Ashton Genty today, like, regardless of how well or bad he's played, it's going to take 2+ firsts and a player, I would bet. I don't see any players, maybe Lemon, but again, it's going to be very dependent on how he finishes and who he's drafted to and how high he's drafted for me. But everyone else is just kind of mid to late real NFL draft, like first round picks at the top end. And, you know, you could get lucky, like we talked about with the BTJ and Lad class, where like those picks end up being a gold mine for you. But it could also just be you end up with your Xavier Legette and Keon Coleman and come out with basically lost value and almost worthless players, to be honest, at least from a dynasty perspective. So if you're a rebuilder, my advice would be probably hold your first and think about how you can get more into the 2027 class. You know, there's 2 wide receivers in college that are almost certainly coming out in that class that will just break all prospect models at this point. So I don't see that changing. I don't see them regressing at all. They've both been great this year. I would see if I can get into 2027 unless you have like the bona fide 101, simply because that will be the most valuable at draft time and you don't want to trade that right now. But if I have like 3 first-round picks and 2 like late first-round picks, I don't know if I'm keeping them. I might re-roll because there is not a subset of players here where I'm like, this, if I get 4 of these guys right, my team is back in contention. I don't think we have those types of players here, especially because there's no good quarterbacks. We don't know what the quarterback position is going to look like. So like you can't add value in a quarterback really through the draft outside of just luck, to be honest with you. So if you have a bad quarterback room, you're probably going to continue to have a bad quarterback room.
Yeah, I think I'm actually really happy that you answered the way you did, because that was kind of where my thought process had been lining up. I think I'm with you. I think this is turning into a trade away class. I think I'm leaning towards, if I seem to have some of the better picks, I love the call. Go get Neighbors. Go get Burrow. Yeah, I'm absolutely trying to get the higher end, like high end, not just like, good producers. Like I want the high end difference makers. If I have to trade the players that are producing now that I do have on my roster plus a first, like I'm happy to do that. I don't see, like, I think like you said, it's, for me, it's Jeremiah Love. And then maybe, like you said, a couple of the receivers are looking potentially as high-end prospects. I don't see any other really awesome prospects. So it's going to take a real big push in rookie draft season to kind of, all gas those picks and get any sort of value there. I'd prefer to just go get what I can now, especially with the guys that we know what they are. So,
yep. As a contender,
I think that goes for both contenders and rebuilders, retoolers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
If I'm a contender, like I'm happy to go shop my first for production now and say, like, I don't know that I'm going to get a difference maker next year, even if there are shots that can be taken in the late first.
Yeah. I would be actively trying to win this year because you've had major injuries to a lot of top players. Some of them are going to be lingering all season. You're going to have like half of the top 12 wide receivers that'll miss like 4 to 6 games at the rate it's going. Like, it feels like a very volatile year in fantasy where like the teams that are very clearly the favorites might have gotten 2 or 3 of these injuries and suddenly they're in third. And it's like, well, yeah, they're still in the playoffs, but they're beatable. Like
I've had a couple teams like that so far. I try and get pretty specific about which leagues I'm going to compete in. Just I do everything I can to not finish in the middle. And there's a couple where it's like I'm like 4-2 now.
Yeah.
But I've got Malik Neighbors sitting in IR. I'm like I don't want to trade away Malik Neighbors. But like I don't know if my roster can truly compete with that much dead weight in my IR spot. So
yeah. Package him and your first. Go get Lamb, go get Chase, go get Jefferson. See what you can do. Because if you don't have them on that same team already, none of those guys are really. Chase last night is probably the first one this year of like, hey, they're still breaking fantasy. Like these teams are probably not doing that well. You've had CeeDee Lamb for 2 games. You've had Justin Jefferson for 3 good games and a couple real stinkers. Like Jamar Chase has been very 50-50. So yeah, I think now's the time to strike. We're one of the first shows that I can see on the internet that is talking about this class already. Like people are not thinking about 2026 right now.
Yeah,
Go sell.
Yeah, I think there's an edge here. I don't see anything special. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a sell class. Honestly, like, I mean, see what your picks are worth. I know it's not, rookie draft season where everyone's getting hype and everything, but I mean, if you're kind of borderline, like, make a push.
Yep.
Try and get. I mean, honestly, like, if you've been doing that and you manage to get Devontae Adams, like, he should have a huge game this week. We don't know how long Puka will be out. They're saying they expect him back after the bye. But I mean, that's the kind of player that you want, that has that contingent upside I was talking about with the running backs. Like, go diversify into those players that they're producing now, but have that contingent upside, and then see where you're at closer to the trade deadline and shape your team as needed. So
we're pretty close to the trade deadline at this point. I mean, week 7, we've got 1 or 2 weeks left for most leagues.
I think some of my leagues have pretty late trade deadline. I do it generally. It's like when the playoffs start, you're locked. So you can make deals up to then to try and position yourself. But
I'm in a lot of halfway through the season leagues, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we need to go another couple 100 days to filibuster this all the way into draft season. Any appetite for that out there? No?
We're 70 minutes in so far, so we're at a good pace.
All right. Well, we will end it there then, folks. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have not, subscribe. The algorithms control everything, including our livelihoods. So please help us get that extra serving of gruel. Yeah, until next week, guys. I mean, go sell your picks. Let us know how you do. Until then, this is Dynasty 30.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.